Welcome everybody to my podcast, Big Little Small Talk. I'm Megan O'Hara-Sullivan and I love to talk, but I also love to listen. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello there, you're with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and we're on Big Little Small Talk. Today we are marking Parkinson's Awareness Month. April is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and yesterday was Parkinson's Day, with the 11th of April, and I am coming back to see the Parkinson's support group. You will remember we've been here twice before and we've spoken to some people who either have an lived experience of Parkinson's or their loved one does, and today we thought we'd talk about some of the support things that happen for the Parkinson's Association here in Toowoomba. They're a very active group. Carol and Joe Chalmers are amazing, and Carol has got me today to talk to two people, one who's a dance teacher, dance instructor, and one who does music therapy with the Parkinson's group. So we welcome our dancing person, and that's Sally Andrews. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you so much.
Now, Sally, Carol is a very persuasive woman. She's great. She's very involved in making people aware of Parkinson's and the different sort of aspects of it. How did you get to teach dance to people with Parkinson's?
Yeah, great question. So we were offering our over 55s classes. So we have over 55s ballet and tap originally, and Carol saw that we were offering that. And so she invited me to come along to a day with Erica Rose Jeffrey, who is one of the directors of Dance for Parkinson's Australia. And she was doing a class in Toowoomba. And then we just got involved through Erica Rose and through Carol. And it took us about 12 months to set up our classes. There was a lot to do, a lot of training we had to do and get the studio ready. And then we started our Toowoomba pilot project. I think it was 2016 or 2017 we started our project. It's been a while now we've been doing it.
Right. And you already had a dance company called Radiance Academy. That's correct. And you were mostly teaching, young kids? And
yeah, so we do from 18 months to about 81 years. So we already had that going, teaching our children and our adults classes, and then Parkinson's followed along after that.
Tell me about some of the specific things that you had to with Erica. What are the things that you had to learn that were different to teaching normal dance classes for teaching people with Parkinson's?
So we did some online training with the Dance for Parkinson's program. So it was originally from New York, so they have a teacher training program. So we did the online content, and then we did practical days with Queensland Ballet. So Queensland Ballet partners with Dance for Parkinson's Australia to offer teaching programs. So we've participated in those teaching programs, as well as some seated dance class programs with them as well. So not just the Dance for Parkinson's, but they do lots of teacher education. But these particular classes, we learnt different things about Parkinson's, how it relates to dance, what things we can do as a dance artist to present these classes well. And then Erica Rose comes and visits us occasionally from Dance for Parkinson's Australia. And there is ongoing training if you want to continue to learn with the Dance for Parkinson's New York. The Mark Morris group are the ones that run that, and it's pretty amazing. So there's lots of support that they can give you, and they offer online classes as well for participants.
So what do your classes look like? All people are in chairs, or some people standing up? How does it work?
So we start our program seated, and we progress through different seated activities from a warm-up. We do some fine motor skills, some big motor skills. Then we do some standing. Sometimes we progress around the room, but it just depends on the cohort we've got on the day as to how advanced we get. Some of the classes I've been to in Brisbane do a lot more travel than our cohort do. So we do a lot of seated stuff and then a lot of standing behind a bar and holding on, or standing holding onto our chair for greater balance. We sort of structure it and tailor it to the cohort that we're working with at the time.
Yeah, because I was reading, of course, some of the reasons why dance is so good for people with Parkinson's, because you're addressing the balance issues, the flexibility, the spatial awareness, all of that sort of thing. But Tell me about the social aspect of it and why that's so important.
Yeah, so there's so many studies that they've done on this Dance for Parkinson's project that came out of New York. I think there's like 40 peer-reviewed studies on it, and a lot of it is talking about the socialisation and the quality of life. So it's all related to the music as well. So that's a big part of it as well, is the music and them dancing together. Our group actually have been going out for lunch afterwards as well. So as you mentioned already, the Dance for Parkinson's group in Toowoomba is a very close-knit community that are very supportive of each other, and they seem to welcome newcomers easily, and they have become a real family to each other. So in our group, we not only have the dance together, the musical aspect, and all of the amazing benefits that the class itself brings, but then a lot of our cohort will go out together and socialise straight after class.
I was looking at some of the things that you've done, Sally. I saw a story a couple of years ago, because you've been running this class for a while, I think on one of the local TV stations, and there was footage of them in bare feet. Tell me about that?
Yeah, so that's something that's come from the Queensland Ballet training. I think that they probably do that in the New York classes as well. Just better stabilisation, and you can really use your feet. So we do a lot of things. Each dance artist that decides to teach this class can tailor it to their needs and what they are good at. So I'm a ballet background, so we do a lot of ballet-based movements. So as you know, we're pointing our toes a lot and things like that. So if you've got sneakers on or hard-soled shoes, it's much harder to start using your feet. So that's why we do that. And similar reasons for the Queensland Ballet classes. A lot of the footage of those classes will be similar. They'll be barefoot as well.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about setting up your dance studio. I read that you said something about, I've tumbled into my destiny.
Yeah.
So tell me about setting up you were obviously a dancer as a child.
Yeah, so I've always had dance in my life, but then I stopped dance for a while and worked in health and did some other things. But I always did dance part-time, and it just kept coming back into my life. So I went and did teacher training in Melbourne at the Australian Conservatoire of Ballet. That's where my teacher training started. And then I was working for a lady who became unwell, so I took over her studio and just continued to train and grow from there. Just kept learning, getting new qualifications and adding more strings to our bow so that our students really get a really well-grounded education in their dance.
And why was it, do you think, that you said yes to Carol? I know she's very persuasive, but what was it that you thought, I can really add value to someone's life here? Is it because you didn't know anything about it? Do you have any experience with someone in your family with Parkinson's?
I have no experience of Parkinson's in our family, and I didn't know very much about it before we started on this journey. But I've always said that our studio is more than tiptoes, and we're trying to add value to everyone's life. Whoever walks in the door should feel better when they leave than they arrived. And I just thought this is another way for us to give back. Sometimes dance studios can be seen as just competitive places for teenage girls, but our studio is inclusive of all walks of life, and there is so much research to say how much dance benefits people at every age. So I just think it's so important that we just keep dancing, and we just make sure we're really inclusive at our studio and offering lots of things.
Yeah. Do you have any other sort of specialties, like people with disabilities or any other things specific like the Parkinson's
No,
support group?
This is a really special one to us. We have tried inclusive classes along the way in other sorts, and they haven't been a big winner yet. But we do continually keep adding to our list of classes. But this one is a particularly special one to us.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Let's go back and talk about some of those studies, because I was reading this study that about people who did dance as a form of exercise, or they were on a treadmill, and that the people who did dancing had a significantly higher cognitive or executive functioning and processing speed than the people who are on the treadmill. Do you know very much about that sort of thing?
Look, there's heaps of research coming out about all of these different things. A lot of it, they say, is to do with the music. So music can really enhance people who have got Parkinson's to make those movements. Sometimes people with Parkinson's get stuck on a movement, and the music can help your brain keep moving. So I know that's a part of it, and it's rather than doing a movement that's very repetitive and can be spoken about robotically, like I'm moving my arm. With Dance for Parkinson's, we use a lot of imagery. So I can be throwing a cape or something, can sometimes be a better way for someone with Parkinson's to do a movement rather than trying to be specifically like this. So I know that's a big component about it, that they talk about it right from the New York inception of the program. It was all based on imagery and artistry and music more than just the movements.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought about that, and we're going to speak a little bit later on about the music and the singing. But I love that idea that you say, imagine that you're throwing a cape rather than move your arm up and move your arm down. Yeah, because I suppose everyone can sort of picture themselves doing that.
Yeah.
And a cape with such flourish. It's not just a coat, it's a cape. I was also reading this other study about people doing line dancing. Now, do you know anything about that? Because apparently line dancing is sort of one of the highest forms of, I suppose it's remembering all the steps as well as the music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do waltzing or anything like that with your guys?
We don't, but I know that there's heaps of research about tango as well.
Oh.
I've seen that tango's a big one for Dance for Parkinson's as well. With line dancing, we do throw in some country from time to time for ours. So with our group in Toowoomba, we do some ballet-based training, we do some tap dance training, we do some country stuff. So ours is quite diverse. But no, that's really interesting about the line dancing.
Well, I don't know whether it's just all those boot scooting babes putting it on the internet and selling their particular. Can you tell me any sort of stories about some of the particular people that you've seen throughout the years that have really sort of made an impact on you? Have you got any specific stories like that?
Oh, just the group as a whole have been exceptional and have really taught me so many things. I have seen some of the carers and the partners being really tested by going through Parkinson's, but some of the relationships I've seen have been so inspirational. And we just have found really incredible connections. We've lost some people along the way, which has been really hard. And I know that the whole group has found that really impactful. But yeah, no, just an incredible group of people. I think I have gotten a lot more out of it than they have along this journey. Like, just amazing people.
I'm looking at Carol's at the Facebook, the support group, and I think she had, she's amazing because she's learned how to put it all, A, film it, B, put it on YouTube, put it on Facebook. But she had a testimony there from one of the women who said, I had to wait 64 years or something for my husband to get Parkinson's for him to take me dancing, which I thought was kind of cute. Yeah. What about all the people who say, I can't dance, I'm not a dancer? What do you do with them? Do you just let them sit in the chair and sort of absorb it for a bit, or...?
Yeah, look, it's amazing to see. We actually have more men than women in our group as well. And we have a lot of carers that come and dance with us. And once they get in the room and hear the music that we've got and see what we're doing, they all inevitably just join in. We have very few who will just sit back and watch. We have carers who get disappointed when they're not rostered on for dance day. So, yeah, it's a really fun group that we have, and everybody loves joining in.
So if you think you've got someone in your life who has Parkinson's and you think, what's the process for them to come to your dancing class? Do they have to be a part of this Parkinson's support group?
No, anyone would be welcome to come along. So we meet on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. And anyone would be welcome to come along. Sometimes it's a good idea to chat with your GP and make sure that they're happy for you to attend classes, but a lot of GPs are recommending these classes.
I mean, it's all that sort of those synapses in your brain firing off, I'm sure, but with having to think of a movement as well as the listening to the music and remember, what you've been instructed to say. It's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. Now, I always, Sally, you haven't had any prior warning, but when I have people on Big Little Small Talk, I ask them a few questions. What do you think, for you, Sally, is one of your favourite qualities about yourself?
Look, I'm a hard worker. I'm a scrapper. I'm a Leighton Hewitt, so I'll just keep going.
I like that, a scrapper, a Leighton Hewitt. What are 3 words you would use to describe yourself?
Industrious, disciplined, and studious.
That's good, right off the cuff. Okay, when do you feel the safest?
When I know what I'm doing, when I'm well prepared.
Like to be well prepared. No, you're not. What about the biggest regret so far in your life?
That's a good question. Biggest regret would be maybe not saying yes to every opportunity straight away.
What opportunities have you missed?
Probably lots of opportunities I've missed. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Well, they couldn't have made too much of an impact, do you think? And what's something that makes you feel unstoppable?
Watching our Dance for Parkinson's group have a good time.
That's the correct answer. All right. So what about, now this is a great question for you because you are the dance floor. First time in my life when I've had a guest who is the dance floor. What's the song that can't keep you off the dance floor?
Well, I'm going to be a disappointment. Because I dance for a living, I generally don't hit the dance floor because people have too much expectation on me. So I'll be sitting and watching everyone on the dance floor.
You go to a wedding and you don't dance.
I'll have a drink and watch everybody dance.
That is too incredible. That's what you call irony, folks. Yeah. What about your favourite royal person? Do you have a favourite royal?
I do. I am a Queen fan all the way. I loved Queen Elizabeth, but I do like Princess Kate too.
What do you like about her?
She's just very dignified and very put together.
Mm-hmm. Very hardworking too,
yeah.
I suspect.
I think she would be.
That's right. Sally, I love what you're doing and I love your enthusiasm, and I think the people who come to your classes, have you got a name for the class?
We just call it our Dance for Parkinson's community class.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think all those people that are participating probably come away from there with their spirits lifted and, their endorphins racing and, an incredible thing that you're doing. So thank you. And thank you for being my guest on Big Little Small Talk, Sally.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back, listeners, to Big Little Small Talk. You're with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and we've got a couple of people today who are not directly affected by Parkinson's, but are support people for the Parkinson's Association or support group here in Toowoomba. And my second, she just called herself a victim. I hope she's not a victim, but second interviewee today is Melissa Forbes, or I should say, Associate Professor Melissa Forbes. Welcome to Big Little Small Talk.
Thanks, Megan. Happy to be here.
Now, Melissa, what do you do in association with the people with Parkinson's?
So it all began back in 2017, Megan, when Carol had contacted, I think, one of the local speech therapists saying, her and Joe, and by the way, Joe and Carol are 2 members of our Parkinson singing group. She contacted the speech therapist saying, they'd heard that singing is really good for people with Parkinson's and could we start a local singing group? That speech therapist then contacted the University of Southern Queensland, where I work, looking for musicians someone to help kind of get the group up and running. And so at that time, I had a couple of students who were really keen to be involved in community type work. And so together with them and the local Parkinson's support group, we started the singing group called Parkinsons.
It's so cute.
Yeah. And that was, I think, April of 2017. And we've been going full strength ever since.
And what is your role? Are you singing with people, or
Yeah.
are you studying, or both? Or?
So it started off with me really mentoring those students to, one of them facilitated the group or led the group, and then the other person was the accompanist. They've kind of since moved on to other things, and when they moved on, I kind of stepped into the facilitation or leading role for a while to kind of tide the group over until we could figure out how we were going to, sort things. And so I've done, since that time, I've been one of the regular facilitators of the group. I've also conducted a research project with some of the carers in the group. And so that research project was looking at their experiences of group singing. So a lot of the evidence is always, as you can imagine, more focused on people with Parkinson's. But Parkinson's impacts the people around you significantly. So I was really interested to see what the carers got out of participating in our group as well. So that was that research project. And what I found there was that it's a very valuable thing for the carers to do, just as it is for the people with Parkinson's, in terms of reducing kind of social isolation and building connection with other people, feeling that sense of support from other carers, having a place to go to where you don't have to feel conscious or self-conscious about living with Parkinson's and the burden that's associated with that as a carer. All those kind of things were really important to the carers who come along to the singing group. So yeah, that was, I guess, a research element of my connection with the group as well.
So when you say about your research, and I see that part of your bio, it says you explore experiences of singing. What does that mean?
Well,
outside of, say, this group with Parkinson's, yeah.
I'm really interested in, I guess, our stories, our stories of what it means to be here on this planet, our experiences of things. And a lot of the research around things like singing or, kind of ironically creative activities is very quantitative. It's very much, trying to put numbers on things and assess things through kind of psychological instruments and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have a lot of interest in that type of evidence. What I want to hear is really compelling stories of what it means for people when they engage in things like singing. So that's what I mean by experiences of singing. And so my research is qualitative research, where I talk to people and I ask them, I speak to Carol as a carer of someone with Parkinson's and ask her, what does it mean to you to come along to this singing group? And then I hear people's stories, and I find that building that evidence base is actually really compelling, because it's so much easier to share those stories with other people to demonstrate how important this is, rather than just rattling off a whole bunch of numbers or statistics.
That's really fascinating. Talk to me about why singing for people with dementia or Parkinson's, or sort of people with brain injuries, acquired brain injuries. Why is that something that works?
Well, in a way it works because even if you have an acquired brain injury or a neurological condition, you can still do it. So a lot of people have this kind of sense that they can't sing, and I'm just talking about regular people who don't have these kind of conditions. And so what I say to people like that when they say that they can't sing is I give the example of people with Parkinson's who have like compromised vocal function and say, well, they can sing, so can you. So I guess my first point is that it's actually a really accessible activity, even if you do have compromised vocal function. And a lot of people probably don't understand that. So that's really important to understand. In terms of the other benefit, it's a special way to connect with other people. So it goes beyond connecting through conversation or, going out and having a cup of tea or something like that. Those things are important ways to connect with each other. But I think that when you sing together, it's connection on a whole other level. And as we know, people with Parkinson's, for example, can become quite socially isolated. So to have this kind of connection on steroids available for people in that situation through group singing, I think is just a particularly effective intervention, if you like.
What happens for people with Parkinson's with their voice?
Yeah, so Parkinson's affects the entire system. And so it means that their vocal function, like I said, it's compromised. Their voices become quite soft and whispery and a little bit hoarse. And their communication is also affected by the fact that they experience facial masking. So that means that, they don't have access to the full range of expressions that we have. So communication is quite impacted. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't understand about Parkinson's. They see like the physical kind of manifestations of the disease, but they don't actually understand that it affects communication quite severely, and that gets worse over time. So it's important for people with Parkinson's to maintain whatever vocal function they have, and singing is actually a really good way to do that. Yeah.
Do you think, whenever I think, I just saw some video footage of myself doing karaoke on Saturday night, singing Delta Dawn, and knew that I shouldn't have done it because I can't sing.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you say about people going there, you're really vulnerable when you're singing, don't you think? It's almost like lying down in the dentist chair. You're in a vulnerable position.
I think we have, as a society, we've made it like that. So when you think back to, the dawn of time, and if we're sitting around a fire in a cave, we're singing together and we don't care about what we look like or sound like, right? We've been doing that as a species, as human beings, for millennia. It's only very recently that we have decided that you put a singer up on a stage and they have to be of a certain standard, and that's what it means to sing. This is a modern phenomenon, okay? So we are hardwired to sing for connection. And so that's part of my message, I guess, is that I do understand why people feel vulnerable, particularly if they get up and sing on their own. But the more that we talk about it and the more that we normalise it, the more I hope people can access it as a way to feel good about themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's releasing all those endorphins, isn't it? It's like exercise, and they say singing in a choir is like, running at the gym or something. It's,
Yeah.
I won't say better than sex, but...
Well, the hormonal response is really amazing, because you get increased dopamine, serotonin, it decreases cortisol, it increases oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone. That's why, the kind of social connection effect is so strong. So it releases like this incredibly positive hormonal cocktail. Our heartbeats even start to synchronize as we sing together. I mean, there are so many quite miraculous effects of it. And so it's sad to me that there are so many people who think that they can't sing, because that really it's a cultural and a social construction,
I've got so many questions I want to ask you now. Tell me, where does singing come from? Like, why do we sing?
It comes from, I think, our innate desire to connect with another human being. And not only our desire, but our fundamental biological need, mother and infant. The first things that an infant is likely to hear is what they call mother-ese, so that, she's so beautiful, and, she's so cute, and that kind of sing-songy talk that we do with babies. And then, of course, mothers, more often than not, do actually sing to their infants. They don't feel self-conscious in that context to actually share their singing voice. And, it really is something that I'm no musicologist or anthropologist, but I understand that the evidence shows that, this is something that human beings have been doing for thousands and thousands of years. And it's our way of, primally connecting to another person.
So interesting. I'll just remind the listeners that they're on 102.7 FM. We're in Big Little Small Talk, and today we're talking to Melissa Forbes, who is, what are you an associate professor of, Melissa?
Contemporary singing.
Duh. And you're a recovering jazz musician, you tell me.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know about the cerebellum. I want to know about the amygdala. Why do people who can't form sentences, how are they able to sing a song when someone puts it on?
Yeah, I can't answer that one for you. Like, I'm not really up with the neuroscience on that. I can tell you a story though, and that is that in our Parkinson's group, right from the beginning, we had a man come along who was effectively non-verbal, and he was always able to sing along with the songs. He even wrote a poem and, was so kind of moved by his ability to actually participate in the group. So I can't tell you what's going on in the brain for that to happen. I do know that, like, say, people with stuttering as well use music a lot to kind of help join or connect speech. In terms of, what's happening in what parts of the brain, you'll have to go and look up Wikipedia or something.
Well, that's fine. It'll go in one ear and out the other. But I did go to a lecture last night with a fellow who talked about tessellation and music and the repeating in music and how connected that is to maths and... Yes, I'm not explaining that story very well, but I mean, music is such a sort of integral part of our life and somewhere deep, deep down in the deep parts of our brain, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, look, I think music, to kind of go back to the brain thing, I think that music integrates many parts of the brain. And, speaking about tessellation and the patterns and everything, like, my dad is a retired maths teacher, and maths was my favourite subject at school. I loved maths. I loved the patterns. I loved the logic and the coherence of it all. And I think that it's no coincidence that I've gone into music as a result of that. So that kind of stuff really appeals to the left hemisphere of the brain. But then when you start to bring in the artistry and the emotion and the storytelling of music, you're activating the right hemisphere. And so that's the magical combination of music, is that integration of both of those hemispheres. And I think that's why we feel so kind of whole when we sing together. It's literally something that is happening in the brain.
Isn't that interesting? Now tell me about how you became an associate professor of... what was it again? I beg your
Contemporary
pardon.
singing.
Contemporary singing. How does one go from loving maths at high school?
Well, my pat answer to that is by mistake or by accident, but it's actually not true. I used to think, I don't really know how I ended up here, but when I look back on things now, I do understand that there was, I guess, rhyme and reason to me ending up in this position. I started off in law. And I worked in law for almost 10 years, or worked and studied in law for almost 10 years. Found that very dissatisfying for a lot of reasons, and had always loved music. So I went back and studied music as a mature age student. I went to the con and I studied jazz singing, as you do.
A lot of skit and a lot of scat. Yeah. A lot of skitty scat.
Yeah. And spent some time after that, as a performer and a recording artist. And had a child, realised that, the life of a kind of touring musician wasn't really compatible with having a baby. Did land kind of serendipitously a casual tutoring job at the University of Southern Queensland teaching singing. And I guess that was my entry into the world of academia. And once I was in that world, I was like, yeah, actually, this is where I belong. Because I love the way that academia kind of allows me to draw on, I guess, my academic skills, but also apply them to something that I just find really, really fun and fascinating. Yeah.
So what classes do you teach, or what does a normal day look like for you?
Haven't been doing a lot of teaching in the last few years for various reasons, but prior to the last couple of years, which are a bit of an anomaly, I would teach things like music history classes, and actually at the moment I've got a class that's about musicianship and leadership, so looking at musicians as community leaders, which is kind of what we do with the Parkinsons group. We've got a whole group of community musicians who I conceptualise as people who are leaders in our community, because they do so much to facilitate well-being in other people. So I've got that class, which I have developed recently. I've taught people singing. I've, taken ensembles. It can be quite a varied kind of range of teaching things. But like I said, at the moment, my focus is really more on the research side of things, just for now.
Yeah. And you say that you did that. Was it Sing to Beat Parkinson's, the research? That's the one that you did with the carers, is it?
No, that was one that I did under my own steam through USQ, but there was a big research project right when we started the group in 2017, and that was through the Sing to Beat Parkinson's method, I guess you could say, which is out of the UK, and it was coordinated through the Conservatorium in Brisbane. So it was amazing. Like, we started the group in April, and within a few months we were down in the Conservatorium, like in one of the main theatres, performing with all of these other groups as part of that research project. So that was a very heady kind of introduction to the world of group singing for our little Parkinson's group from Toowoomba.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what happened during COVID? Did you go online? What did you do about your classes then?
No, we really just took a break. There were a lot of groups that did go online, and so there were actually really great resources that people could access if they were interested. So a lot of people did like YouTube playlists and things like that for people to sing along to, but we didn't really do anything specifically for our group. We just kind of took a wait and see approach until we could get back in the room together.
Who gets to choose the songs?
It's a mix. So we always take suggestions from people in the group, and we're happy to do that. A lot of the other musicians who are leading the group now, they kind of come up with themes. So, we've had like Oktoberfest and Valentine's Day, or, whatever's kind of happening at the time. And so there'll be songs kind of around the theme. It really depends. We try to mostly keep it upbeat though, and keep it fairly light and positive.
Your Sweet Caroline?
We don't do Sweet Caroline, although we did sing it at the con that day when we did the big, that was the song that all of the groups sang together because Neil Diamond has Parkinson's disease.
Does he? That's so interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, mostly a lot. We do a lot of things, I guess, because of the age group. Like, there's a lot of stuff from Beatles from the 60s and 70s and that kind of stuff. But it's very varied repertoire.
Yeah, how interesting. I know I used to do a bit of work in aged care facilities, and they'd be playing things like Roll Out the Barrel, and I thought, these people that are in there now, they're not Roll Out the Barrel. They're the Neil Diamond, the Johnny O'Keeffes,
that's
the
right.
The Beatles, the Stones. That's
Yeah.
what they want. No,
Yeah.
they're not interested in that.
That's right.
So it's so interesting that you say about Neil Diamond, because I was reading that Alan Border has Parkinson's, and of course Muhammad Ali was fairly famous for with his tremors and things. Just when you said before, Melissa, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, about the voice. So is there a danger, or is there any worry about sort of the singing that you might damage someone's voice or something like that?
Very unlikely, particularly with people who are already finding it hard to achieve any loudness with their voice. The only way that you're going to damage your voice is if you really, really overdo it and you're effectively yelling for a prolonged period of time. Even that in and of itself may not cause any damage. Usually people experience some kind of injury when there's a combination of factors. Either they've been sick or they've been on some kind of medication. There might be like smoke in the room and they're singing really loudly or whatever. But yeah, the risks are very low.
Interesting. Now, your Churchill Fellowship, that's another one of my plan Bs, is a Churchill Fellowship that I don't seem to be getting around to. What did you do your Churchill Fellowship on?
Well, singing, of course.
I
travelled to the United States in 2011, and I did a course over there, which at the time not many people had done in Australia. So it was a course on contemporary singing. So why that's so special is that singing teaching has traditionally focused on classical singing. And so at that time, and it was, 13, 14 years ago now, contemporary singing was still really only just getting its foot in the door in terms of being like a formal way of teaching people to sing. So teaching people to sing in the style of the music that we're hearing in, popular culture. So I went over there and I did that course, and then I spent some time in the studios of a couple of the leading contemporary singing teachers in the United States. So it was, it was a great time. I've met some amazing people as part of that fellowship, and I've just returned from the US, actually, having just visited a few more of those people that I met the first time around. And since that time, I've actually brought one of the leading teachers out to Australia twice. And we've trained over 70 Australian singing teachers in these methods, kind of cutting edge, world-leading methods of teaching people how to sing in contemporary styles. So in terms of like the fellowship itself, I think it's been obviously hugely beneficial to me personally, but it's also been of great benefit to a lot of other people as a result.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's why they give you a Churchill Fellowship. What are you going to bring back to impart that knowledge in Australia, isn't it? You know, that's exactly what it's for. It was such a huge honour to have it, though. It's something that I'm very jealous of.
Well, we'll talk after this.
Okay, now I do like to throw in a couple of curly ones right at the end there. And before I let you go, can I ask you, what is your favourite childhood memory?
Okay, my favourite childhood memory is sitting at our kitchen table at home. Every afternoon after school, my dad was a maths teacher, like I said. I would sit with my dad at our table and I would work through maths problems with him, and I absolutely loved that. I loved that, and he was, he was so versatile in his teaching that he taught me so much about literature. He taught me Shakespeare, about poetry, French, the whole thing. And to me, that was just such a huge feature of my childhood, and that's where my love of learning began.
What a beautiful story.
Yeah.
What are 3 words that you would use to describe yourself, Melissa?
Driven, curious, and motivated. Yeah, motivated to help other people.
Help other people.
Yeah.
And is that why you keep going with the Parkinsons? Like, you're invested in it now, the Parkinsons support group?
Oh yeah, I mean, this has been a hugely beneficial experience for me personally to be involved in this. It's opened my eyes to what singing can do for people rather than what singing could do for me. As a performer, it was very much focused on how can I be the best and how can I get people, interested in what I do. Whereas since I've been involved with this group, my focus has completely changed. Like, I'm just way more interested in how singing can help other people. So yeah, I feel very, very lucky in that respect.
Oh, lovely. Okay, now we got a surprise answer from Sally about what's the song that couldn't keep her off the dance floor, since she is the dance instructor. But you must have a multitude of songs that can't keep you off the dance floor.
I have a few, but I'll say Return of the Mac by Mark Morrison is probably one of the key ones.
Okay. Leroy will have to go searching for that one for me. All right. What about your favourite royal? Are you a royalist? Do you like watching Perving on the Royals?
I'm not particularly interested, but I'm going to give you an unorthodox answer. Prince.
I'm with you. Is it Prince before he changed his name to the squiggly signs?
Yeah, that's right. Just Prince. He did go back to Prince after that. But no, he's my favourite royal by a long way.
I love it. Well, I did when I interviewed Ruby Slippers, she said Elvis Presley because he was the king. So I think I'll accept your answer, and it's a beautifully fitting answer for you too, Melissa, who is the singing and I think you bring so much more to the lives of people in the Parkinson's support group than you say you get so much out of it. I'm sure you've touched a lot of people's lives in hugely beneficial ways. So thank you for being my guest on Big Little Small Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to Big Little Small Talk. You're on 102.7 FM. You're with me, Megan O'Hara-Sullivan, and we have got Carol herself, Carol Chalmers, who is so brilliant and so instrumental in organising things for the Parkinson's support group here in Toowoomba. Carol, your husband Joe has Parkinson's.
Yes,
How's
that's right.
it been since a year since we've been here?
Well, it hasn't been a particularly good year, actually, in terms of Parkinson's. As you know, Parkinson's disease is ever progressing, and it never gets better. And he has had Parkinson's now for 15 years, which is quite a substantial time. But he's experiencing some symptoms that are more difficult now, and he's needing to use a wheelie walker basically all the time when he's walking. But we still do things, and we still get out and about, but he's much more tired, and he experiences a lot of not only fatigue but also pain, which a lot of people don't realise is something that people with Parkinson's can suffer from.
Because the early symptoms are things like the tremors and the muscle stiffness and slowness of movement, aren't they? When were you first aware that Joe might have had something happening? What was the sort of a sign that you thought something's not quite right?
I think that I think that at some he said to me for a number of years that he thought he had Parkinson's, and I kept ignoring him and explaining that probably it was this or probably it was that. Not that I've got any medical background at all, but I didn't want to think about it. And then when he was diagnosed, and I started thinking back, I realised that at some stage I said to our GP, look, there is something wrong with Joe and I just can't put my finger on it. And later on, when I really sat down and thought about it, it was the fact that our communication between the two of us was a little bit different than it used to be, and I could no longer read Joe, and he didn't seem to me to be as happy. And really that was all about the face masking. So Parkinson's disease affects every muscle in the body. So the muscles that make you smile and make you express yourself, they can, for some people, become really deadpan. And so that people don't realise that that's such a huge part of communication, especially when people have been married forever and a day, and you sort of know, you say something and you don't need to necessarily respond verbally. You can see it in their face that they understand or whatever. And so that was missing for me, and that I think was something that I had not realised until I started reading up about Parkinson's, and that was what I couldn't put my finger on.
Yeah, so interesting. Did Joe have any of the writing getting smaller and all of that?
Yes, he noticed
that.
Yeah, that was one of the things he noticed at work. He had to take notes at his workplace because he was a nurse, and he was finding that that he'd start off normally, and then by the end his writing was almost unreadable and was very, very small. So, I mean, that was some of the things that he started looking up, and why he said to me, look, I think I've got Parkinson's. So
at that stage, Carol, did Joe have any of the tremors or anything?
No, Joe has never experienced any of the tremors, which most people think that that's what Parkinson's is all about, a hand tremor and not much else. But Joe never experienced that. There would be about 40% of people with Parkinson's, I think, that do not have an actual hand tremor. Those who have it starts off on one side, and then usually after many years it might be both sides. Yeah, but Joe never had that. But he used to have like internal tremors that he could feel, but no one could see.
Right, wow.
Yeah.
And what about the losing the sense of smell? Did that happen to Joe?
Yes, it did, and that was many years ago, and he wasn't diagnosed until 2009, but he lost his sense of smell actually in 1978, I think, and that is a long, long time. But that quite often for some people is the first thing that happens, and there are no other signs of Parkinson's for 10, 20, nearly 30 years sometimes. So, but not everyone who loses their sense of smell is going to have Parkinson's.
COVID,
there's lots of other things that can cause you to lose your sense of smell, but it is something that a lot of people with Parkinson's experience.
Carol, what do they know now about the causes of Parkinson's? Do we know?
Well, no, they've never been able to clarify that. They think that people probably have a predisposition to it, maybe a gene or something that can be activated in the right circumstances. It may never be activated, and then that's why they think that it might be environmentally involved as well. So, one of the questions scientists and specialists quite often ask is, did you have anything to do with chemicals when you were younger or whatever? And apparently there are sort of cluster groups in farming areas where there are quite a number of people with Parkinson's, a higher number than you would get in the rest of the community. But then you get some people with Parkinson's who, as far as they know, have had no exposure to chemicals. So no, they really haven't found an answer as yet, Megan. No.
When you read the statistics about the people in Australia, the number of people with Parkinson's disease is expected to double by 2040.
That's right.
Yeah?
Yes.
And is it correct to say that men are 2 times more likely to experience Parkinson's? Yeah.
Yes, that's the figures. About twice as many men as women, and that would be borne out by the people at our Parkinson support group.
Right,
yes.
Yeah. And you participate in the dance and the singing, is that right?
Yes, I do, yes. Go along with Joe. I mean, it's something that we can do together, and we both enjoy it. So it's a couple of outings a week that we really look forward to, yes.
And Carol, if there's people listening and they think that their partner might, or they know that their partner has Parkinson's, how do you get involved with the Parkinson's support group here in Toowoomba? And is it only people who have really sort of manifest type signs, or are there people at all along the continuum of in the disease?
Yeah, it's certainly along the continuum with the disease. I think that at first some people don't like to come to Parkinson's support groups because they feel it might be a bit confronting to see someone who's 10 years down the track or whatever. But it's very important to remember that with Parkinson's disease, it's a very individual disease. There are common things about Parkinson's that everyone will have, the slowness of movement, the stiffness, that sort of thing. But then there's sort of around about 70 to 90 different symptoms, and those symptoms are shared around between people. So everyone has their own little cocktail of symptoms that they find difficult to live with, and some people, find that medication helps them a lot. The same medication might not help someone else. So it's sort of in that way, it's very individual, and that's why it's important to have a team of people like your GP and your specialist and what have you working together to try to address your symptoms and what's bothering you the most, and how to best manage that situation, because it's going to go on for a long time.
So they'll just find you. What's the best way? Just to find you, Google
Toowoomba
Support Group,
yes,
Parkinson's?
Yes, if you just Google Toowoomba Parkinson Support Group, and people are happy for people to phone me on 46597 646. It's my phone number. A lot of people come to us now through the website that we have. And also we try to advertise our meetings when they're on. They're the first Thursday of every month upstairs in the meeting rooms at the library, and so it's very pleasant surroundings. And our last meeting actually we had over 90 people at our meeting. So you're not alone if you've got Parkinson's.
You had a neurologist
we had a geriatrician speak to us, Dr. Gungay, and a number of people with Parkinson's go to Dr. Gungay in Toowoomba as a specialist. He's one of the people that is available to people with Parkinson's in Toowoomba, and it was very kind of him to come along and talk to us. But to have that sort of number turn up to a meeting just shows you how keen people are to try to get the information that they need, because information is all important when you're going to live with a disease for a long, long time.
Now, Carol, as per usual, I've run out of time. I'm sure I have asked you in the past, what's the song that can't keep you off the dance floor? Do we have one this time?
Probably Tiptoe Through the Tulip, since tulip is the Parkinson's. That'll get me up on the floor, I'm sure.
Oh, how lovely. It's the sort of flower of Parkinson's,
yes,
is it? Yeah,
yes, that's right.
And I read that blue is the colour. Make it blue, is it?
No, it's a purpley colour, but
okay.
the actual tulip is red, and it was bred by someone in Holland who's was involved with Parkinson's, and so that became the symbol. And then purple is the colour, like, different groups have a particular colour, and purple is Parkinson's colour.
Quickly, your favourite royal?
I think Princess Anne, probably. I think she works really hard and doesn't tend to seek the limelight, and she does a good job.
That sounds like one Carol Chalmers, if I
am
correct.
I don't
Carol,
think so.
I'm going to say thank you, and thank you once again for reaching out. I hope this information has brought people who may be living with Parkinson's or may be suspecting that it might be around the corner for either them or their partner, and I think you would be crazy not to get involved with the Parkinson's support group here in Toowoomba, because it's a wonderful, loving, fun group of people.
It is indeed, and thank you very much, Megan, for getting involved with us.
Thank you. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me on Big Little Small Talk. I hope you can make the time to join me next week. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favourite podcast app.